When we left off, the Toa team had split in two. Tahu, Onua, and Gali would be going down below into the swamp to look for the Mask of Life. In the meantime, Kopaka, Pohatu, and Liwa would be guarding the village. Both teams would be looking for keystones. That will become important a little bit later. When we left off, Kopaka's contingent of the team had just gotten done stomping the shit out of some visually impaired shadow people. The spooky ghost men regroup in their lair after their defeat, where Antros makes the executive decision to summon the big motherfucker himself, Icarax. He's almost wiped out the entire Toa team before. He could probably do it again. Mutron assigns his assistant, Vikan, to go get the man. In order for Vikan to get there faster, Mutron synthesizes a beast of burden for him by throwing another random Shadow Matoran into a vat with a bunch of other creatures that he was working on. So poor Vikan has to travel on this mutant Matoran all the way to Destral to inform Icarax that they need his help. Vikan arrives on Destral. Destral is a fucking terrible place. The air is boiling hot. The island is teeming with Rakshi and Vizorak. What little of the island that still exists, anyway. Most of the island is dominated by a giant black fortress built out of steel and stone. It's a horrible damn place, befitting for horrible damn people. Vikan lands and is almost immediately bodied by a horde of Rakshi. But then they see the tablet of transit and are like, oh, apologies, king. So Vikan is let inside the massive fortress. 500-foot-high ceilings are held up by walls that are littered with Toa masks, weapons, Rahi heads, all sorts of really fucked up shit. Conquests of the Brotherhood. And in the middle of it all, sitting on Pterodax's throne, wearing Pterodax's mask of shadows, is Icarax. Steve here, and Larson. Icarax's dialogue in the following scene is just spectacular. It's like classic supervillain shit. Vikan has been in the room for no more than 30 seconds, and Icarax immediately threatens his life. First verbally, and then physically as he starts to choke Vikan with a tentacle of shadow. He's like, tell me why you're here or I'll fucking burst you! Vikan tells Icarax that Antros has summoned him to Karda Nui. Icarax does not take kindly to being summoned. He's like, that little shit presumes to tell me what to do? Vikan's like, oh, I'm just following Pterodax's orders, and Icarax doesn't take kindly to that shit either. As a brief reminder, Icarax and Pterodax do not get along. Pterodax is a planner, a schemer. He's more like Darth Sidious. Icarax is a lot more like Darth Maul, insofar as he believes that most problems can be solved by a murderous rampage. And now that Pterodax is at least temporarily out of the picture, Icarax fancies himself in charge. So in the books, Icarax is portrayed as having a relatively quiet voice, and I just turned him into an angry Scotsman. At the mention of his boss's name, Icarax picks up Vikan and dangles him over a vat of energized protodermis, just for fun, and then proceeds to deliver the following line that really sums him up as a person. Pterodax has always been fond of gambles. His entire plan is a colossal wager against destiny. If all do their part, perhaps, maybe, ultimate power will be ours, he pledges. I believe in certainties. The strength of my limbs, the sharpness of my blades, the power of my mask, that is what I build my plans around. Trickery, deception, complex plans, those are for the weak. If you want power and another person has it, you don't get it by outwitting them. You get it by stepping over their corpse. Run back to your master, tell him Icarax comes, and if he is wise, he will tremble. A certified hood classic. My Scottish accent isn't even that good. I feel like I've probably offended someone. So remember how Tahu and the gang went down into the swamp to find the Mask of Life? They're not going to find it there. And the reason it's not there anymore is because it's gone full Pinocchio and decided it wants to be a real boy. The Mask of Life witnessed Matoro's sacrifice, his heroism, and his unflinching dedication to the Great Spirit and thought, me too, thanks. So it made itself a body by essentially just assembling a bunch of swamp detritus in the form of a body. This is not the last time that it will do this. It also makes itself a speeder to ride on and soars out of the swamp. Okay, so let's get this out of the way real quick. I am not a huge fan of Toa Ignika. He's one of those overpowered characters where the extent of his powers seem kind of dictated by plot convenience, which is fine. It doesn't really distract from the story all that much. It's just not that interesting. But whatever. Anyway, the freshly jellied Toa Ignika is on his way to help his Toa friends. Things are gonna go interestingly, I'll say that much. Kopaka's team is defending the village. In a very convenient stroke of luck, Liwa shoots a Shadow Matoran out of the sky named Kairop. This isn't actually what Kairop looks like, but whatever. Kairop was a former village leader, and also, coincidentally, happens to have one of the keystones that the Toa are looking for. But the Toa realize he has something that is potentially just as valuable. Information. In particular, Kairop would probably know exactly where the Makuta stronghold is. So they capture him while he's still knocked out and lock him in a room with very thin walls. Once he regains consciousness, he can hear the Toa discussing through the walls how they're going to attack the Makuta stronghold. And Kairop's like, oh fuck, I gotta break out and tell the guys! So with surprising ease, he escapes and starts flying straight for the Makuta base. Just as planned. See, the Toa actually have no clue where the Makuta base is, but now they can just follow Kairop there. Kairop is not the brightest crayon in the tool shed. Kairop impacts the plot in a really significant way, and it's really just by being a fucking idiot. As the gang is tailing Kairop, they bump into Toa Ignika. Oh, one thing that's kind of notable about this guy is that he can't talk. So they just run into this mute motherfucker and are like, what? Who the fuck are you? Keep in mind, none of them have seen the Mask of Life. They have no idea what it looks like, so they just have no idea who the fuck this is. But then he 187s a very aggressive bird by pointing at it, and they're like, oh yeah, no, he's probably cool. So Ignika tags along with the gang. Kairop arrives at Mutron's lair. Mutron's lair is the place where all the shadow leeches are synthesized to turn the regular Matoran into shadow Matoran. So you might say this place is of key strategic advantage. And Kairop just brought the Toa Nuva to Mutron's front door. The only thing the two sides can agree on is that Kairop is a fucking idiot. Ignika, Liwa, and Pohatu go to smash some vats of leeches. And Kopaka squares off against Mutron. Let's get ready to rumble! Kopaka's about to hit Mutron with an ice attack when Mutron uses his mindfuck powers to break Kopaka's brain. He then choke slams him, after which he proceeds to cast an illusion on Toa Ignika. This illusion makes Ignika look like a giant snake monster, so the gang starts attacking Ignika. Ignika, unaware of the fact that he is being perceived as a giant snake monster, is wondering why his new friends have suddenly decided to attack him. So, reacting on instinct, he just starts sapping the life out of Liwa and Pohatu. Mutron is very pleased by this, but he isn't really paying attention and doesn't notice that Kopaka has been playing possum. As a result of his hubris, he gets his shit pushed in. With Mutron's concentration broken, the illusion is also broken, and the fighting stops. And Pohatu realizes, wait, holy fuck, this dude has the Mask of Life, what? Who are you even? Then the rest of the Makuta show up and everybody gets taken prisoner. By the way, the Matoran are with the Toa the whole time. I just don't really bring them up because it's pretty inconsequential. The team has been captured. They're gonna infect them with shadow leeches and turn them into traitors. But Pohatu has an ace up his sleeve. After using his power of stone to knock the Makuta off balance, he makes use of his Mask of Speed in an unorthodox way. He vibrates his own molecules so fast that he slips out of the chains. He then uses that same power to set his comrades free. They then proceed to make further use of the Mask of Speed to, in rapid succession, run around the chamber and smash all of the Shadow Leech containers. All of this happens in the span of a couple of seconds. Much like the adorable robot Baymax, Makuta are not fast. And even as they block the exit, Pohatu makes use of his molecule vibrating ability one more time and just flies straight through them with the rest of his team. Toa Ignika then uses his life-stealing powers to sap the life out of the organic stone that is holding the hive in place, sending it careening into the swamp below. I've been at it for a couple hours now. The defeated Makuta have retreated to Antros' hideout. Mutron is particularly bitter about Kairop being a dumb piece of shit, and he spends a hot minute ranting to Antros about how he just wants to kill all of the Shadow Matoran because it's pointless to keep them around anyway. And this is where we get some interesting insight into Pterodax's plan. Because Antros admonishes Mutron, and he basically says, you know why we keep them around. Matoran of Light have an incredibly high potential of becoming Toa, and if that happens, we want them to be our Toa. That seems kind of odd, doesn't it? The Makuta are kind of powerful enough on their own, and they have an army of Rakshi and Vizorak. Why would they need Toa? I mean, it's always good to have another fighting force, but it seems kind of unnecessary, doesn't it? Especially given that most of these guys are hell-bent on killing Toa. Antros and the rest of them obviously don't know it yet, but that's not the actual reason that they're here. But there's no time to ponder that shit. Icarax has entered the chat. Shit's about to get real. So Icarax has shown up, and we get this kind of weird dialogue between these two where Icarax really tries to assert himself and Antros just completely shoots him down. Like, there's very few bones about who's in charge here. And I mean, like, it takes a lot of balls for someone to go up to someone wearing the Mask of Shadows and be like, yeah, no, I'm not fucking scared of you, do what I say. And then he does it. We should be putting some respect on Antros' name. That is, until Shadow Gang makes another grievous miscalculation. The Makuta make like an American foreign policy program and start bombing the shit out of the last remaining Matoran village. But they very quickly realize that no one's there. The Matoran have been evacuated, and the Toa are using this opportunity to get a hold of the keystone that's being held by the Makuta, seeing as their base is unguarded. This is not how you're supposed to run shit. But now it's time for a big ol' confrontation, in which some super wonky stuff happens. I don't know what this is. The ensuing battle's pretty cool. Antros gets his armor breached because Pohatu throws a stalactite at him. Pohatu also does a really badass superhero landing that splits a giant stalagmite in two. It's pretty cool. A lot of the coolest moments are kind of reserved for Pohatu. Throughout all of this, Ignika's just been kind of watching. But as the tide starts to turn in the wrong direction, Ignika realizes, you know what, I should probably help these people. And he squares up against Icarax. Now, Icarax almost knocks our boy off his speeder. And when Ignika tries to put the blade to him, Icarax simply alters his density and lets it pass through him. I'm incorporeal, bitch! Ignika tries to sap the life out of him, but realizes there's no organic material in Icarax. That, like the rest of the Makuta, he's just a suit of armor with angry gas in him. But then Ignika's like, I wonder if he's always been that way. I guess I'll find out. And he starts running Icarax's biological clock backward. Icarax is about to have a very bad time. Well, this is a look. Ignika has just used his power to devolve Icarax. Now, the Makuta have just been suits of armor with angry gas in them for centuries, and they've been constantly retrofitted with more and more reinforcement. Which means there's really no room inside that armor for anything organic. But when Ignika starts aging Icarax backwards, all of that organic material starts regrowing into places it's not supposed to be. This is the first time anybody can remember hearing a Makuta scream. So Icarax is basically down for the count. Mutron, realizing that the situation is completely fucked, orders a strategic retreat into the swamp to assist their brethren down below in preventing the other 3 Toa from completing their mission. We're about to meet some new friends. And it also means we're about to get some new mocks. I'm really excited. I've been waiting to show these off for a minute. I'd also like to give a quick shout out to my friend Johnny Artiga for providing me with Vampra and Gavla. My Vampra mock wasn't great, and it just feels really good to hold the original set again. Thank you, John.